Hello out there, and welcome to the channel, lords and ladies. I'm your liege lord, the Godless Gamer, and today I'm going to bring you another tier list using Tier Maker. Since the first one did so well and you guys seem to enjoy it, I thought I'd give you another one. This time, we're going to rank all the different personality traits in CK3 in an interesting way, at least I hope so. Instead of coming at this from like a power ranking, because I think those are so boring, we're going to come at this from a different perspective. Since I do have the game open to use as a reference if I have to, and since I'm playing the Elder Kings 2, which is the Elder Scrolls mod for CK3, I wanted to come at this from a different perspective and imagine this tier list like we are an adventurer in Skyrim and we have a companion and we just dungeon delved and we just came out of that dungeon taking everything that wasn't nailed down, killing everybody and stripping them of all of their loot, taking everything. And we've just come out of that dungeon over encumbered. We cannot fast travel anywhere to sell any of this, so we have to drop stuff. So we're going to come at this from that perspective, from the perspective of us as an adventurer in Skyrim with a companion, leaving a dungeon. All of the personality traits are our loot that we took, and we have to decide, since we can't fast travel and we're over encumbered, we have to decide what we're going to drop and what we're going to keep. So we're going to do like a weight value analysis on each one of these personality traits. We're going to look at them, see how valuable they are, and see how much weight they have. So in this, to stick with the metaphor or stick with the analogy, the weight will represent a personality trait's downsides, the things that aren't good about it, the skill point reductions, or the increase in stress gain that you get from like a personality trait. So that'll represent the weight, and then the value of the item is represented by the skill points that it gives you and maybe the stress loss bonuses that it gives you. So that's what we're going to do with this. We're going to drop all the unnecessary loot and we're going to sift through all of the loot in our inventory. We're going to see what we're going to equip. That stuff is going to be at the top. So these are the items that the player, you the player in Skyrim, you want to equip these. You want to equip these personality traits yourself. All of the best loot goes to the player first. So these are the things that you want to prioritize for the player. Then the next level, these are things that you don't necessarily want to equip. They're not that light or valuable, but you still want to hold on to them. Maybe to stick with the Skyrim analogy, this might be like another sword that you have in your inventory that you only use in certain situations. Still valuable enough for you to keep in your inventory, but not valuable enough to equip. So that's where the next level will be. Then the next one is we're looking at your companion. This is not the player. This is your companion. What kind of personality traits are you going to give them? Since you don't want to equip them yourself or hold on to them in your own inventory, what are the personality traits that you wouldn't mind giving to your companion? What are the personality traits that you want to equip them? What are the traits that you deem heavy and non-valuable enough to not carry yourself? So we'll give those to our companion to equip. And then the next level down is, these aren't traits that these are so bad that not even your companion is equipping them. They're still worth keeping so you can sell them when you get back to Whiterun or wherever you're going. They're still valuable enough to hold on to in your companion's inventory, but they're not valuable enough for even them to equip. And then the bottom level, after we're done sifting through all this loot, what at the very end deserves to be dropped. Now, if I imagine the distribution in my head, I don't think it's going to be top heavy, and I don't think it's going to be bottom heavy. What I'm imagining is like a bell curve, maybe a slightly lopsided bell curve. Maybe it'll tend towards the top of the list as opposed to the bottom of the list. But we'll see how we go as we get through these. These aren't in any particular order. I just uploaded the images and I scrambled them around just to make this completely random. I do have the wiki open to use as a reference. I have all the numbers, the raw numbers, right in front of me on my other monitor. So if I want to get into the nitty-gritty on a particular personality trait, I will. But for the most part, I'm going to be working off my experience. I have like thousands of hours playing CK3, so I have a lot of experience with these personality traits. So for the most part, I'm going to go with my gut. But if I want some more if I want to glean some more information, I'll look over at the wiki. I think the first one is pretty easy to start. Just like my last tier list, the first one was pretty easy to start. But this one's Diligent. I do value Diligent. I think this is one of the most valuable personality traits. I think the player should equip these. This is one of the lightest, most valuable items in your inventory. These are the things you want to equip, definitely. Diligent is really, really strong. It does give you a lot of skill points, so I'm going to look over here. +2 diplomacy, +3 stewardship, +3 learning. There is a penalty to stress loss, so -50% stress loss. So anytime you relieve stress, Diligent prevents you from relieving as much. -50% is pretty bad. But you get some opinion bonuses, 5 to parochial vassals, and anybody else who's Diligent gets a +10 to their opinion. So maybe it is a little heavy. Maybe it is kind of on the heavy side, and I should put it down in the inventory. But if you're just beginning a campaign in CK3 and your starting character has Diligent, that -50% stress gain that you suffer, if you're playing it right, and if you know how to manage your stress properly, I don't think that -50% stress can get in your way. That's why I deem it more necessary to put at the top, because if the player is equipping this, they can kind of deal with the penalties that come with it. So Diligent is really good to equip for your character. I think this is something... I think this is one of those personality traits that I would start a campaign with, just because it's so strong and it gives you so many skill points. What was that, like 6 skill points? No, it gives you 8 skill points. And all of them are the different lifestyles that I value. Diplomacy I value, stewardship I value, learning I value. If you saw my last tier list, you know that all of those are basically at the top of my list, so Diligent is an easy choice for me. It goes at the top. Alright, next one is Calm, another one that I do like. +1 diplomacy, +1 intrigue, some stress loss, +10% stress loss, so it does help you reduce stress. It works against you if you're a dread build, because it reduces the amount of... Or no, it increases the amount of dread that decays over time. But if you have a high natural dread, your natural dread can't decay over time. So if you're able to get your dread up to a decent level, even if your dread decays more over time, that's not a big deal, because your dread is just high naturally. So I don't think that's a lot... I don't think that's a big detriment. It improves your chances of discovering schemes, and that's basically it. You get some some opinion gains as well from other people who are calm. I do like it though. Would I prioritize it though? I don't think I would. Okay, let's just say at the beginning of CK3, you're beginning your campaign and you're limiting yourself to like 3 traits. You can't get every single trait, so the top of the list I'll try to keep as limited as possible. Because at the beginning of the campaign, I typically choose 3 personality traits, so the ones at the top of the list are going to be the ones that I typically choose at the beginning of a campaign, and Diligent is definitely one of them. Calm, not so much. It is a really good trait, but I don't think it's worthy of equipping right off the bat. It's a safe enough trait to give to other people. If we look at this from a different perspective, think of the top of the list as the player character, and as you go down the list, you're getting further and further removed from the player character. So this is the player, and then maybe down the list is like your children, and then maybe further down the list is your grandchildren, and then further down the list, maybe people who aren't necessarily related to you, but maybe they're like powerful vassals or other people, but they're not really important. So the closer you are to the pinnacle of power, the higher on the list these are going to get. Because these traits, maybe I won't prioritize them for the player, but maybe I'll try to get them for like one of my sons or one of my daughters. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm going to put Calm on keep in your inventory. Don't necessarily equip it, but keep it in your inventory. I think it's valuable enough to keep in your inventory, but not necessarily equip. But I do like it though. Calm's good. Not a lot of penalties associated with it. Alright, next one is Patient. Where are you? This one's really good. This one is a very valuable one. it doesn't have a lot of value, but there's like barely any weight associated with it. This, in the perspective of like Skyrim, this is like a precious gem. It has a lot of value. It's not something that you can equip. You can't equip a precious gem unless it's like a ring or a necklace or something. But this is just like a precious gem that you got during your dungeon dive. Still something very valuable, but I wouldn't necessarily equip it because you can't. But now in a CK3 context, it gives you +2 learning. It improves the opinion of your liege opinion. So if one of your vassals has Patient, it will improve their opinion of you if you're the liege and your vassal has this. But it's very slight. It's only +5 opinion, so I don't value that very, very highly. It increases the length of time it takes for people to scheme against you by 10 days per phase, which isn't that much, but it is a bonus. And then parochial vassals like this, +10. +10 opinion from parochial vassals. Parochial vassals don't tend to be very... I mean, I guess it depends. You could get a lot of parochial vassals in your playthrough. But unless you have vassals, this doesn't really pertain to you. But it has some added value if you do have vassals. Like maybe your account. If you're a count and you have Patient and you don't have any vassals underneath you, this might not be as valuable, but I think I'm going to keep it in the inventory. I like it. I typically try to give this to my children because it does have the added bonus of making it more likely to convince your children to take the vows, which is an easy way to manage your line of succession. So maybe I should put it in, give it to a companion instead of keeping it, but because it has that added bonus of making it more likely to convince children to take the vows, I'll keep Patient. I think Patient is a really good personality trait. I might not necessarily start my first character with it, but if I have access to Patient and I don't have access to something above it, I'll get it. So we'll put Patient in, keep in your inventory. Alright, next, Arbitrary is pretty complicated because there's some good things about it and there's some bad things about it. If you like to do intrigue stuff, you might want to get Arbitrary. But what does it provide? It reduces your stewardship by 2, which I already don't like because I value stewardship. +3 intrigue, that's not bad. -1 to your learning. So that's essentially a trade-off. You're getting +3 intrigue and you're losing 3 skill points in other places. So not really a benefit much in terms of skill points, but it does reduce the amount of stress gain that you get by 50%. So if you have stress problems, it does manage stress a little bit. And you get some natural dread from it. +15 natural dread. I don't tend to value dread that much. If I'm playing my cards right and opinions aren't a big issue, I shouldn't really need dread. Like, what dread is really good for is for making sure people are intimidated by you or terrified by you, which protects you against them scheming against you. So that does provide a layer of protection, natural dread, but it's not really that much. I wouldn't say keep it in your inventory, but it doesn't have that many downsides to it. There's a minor vassal opinion, so if you're a liege lord and you have some vassals, it does affect their opinion, but it's only slightly. It's only -5. That's not that much. It does give you access to some other things, like enables dismiss hook interaction, which is not really an interaction that I value very highly, so I think I'm going to put it in companion equipment. It's not really bad, but you don't really get any bonuses because you're not getting any skills, really. The skill losses and the skill bonuses that you're getting kind of cancel each other out. So, unless you want to specifically give a character this trait in order to build them as like a good intrigue character, you don't care about their stewardship and you don't care about their learning, and you want to boost their intrigue skill, this is pretty safe. This is one of the personality traits that help people who are interested in getting into intrigue that aren't risky. They're not really liabilities. If I were to give this to somebody to boost their intrigue, I wouldn't be scared if they had this. So for one of the personality traits that boost intrigue, I actually kind of like this one. So I think I'm going to put this one here. I wouldn't say... The stress gain is pretty nice. Okay, I think if under the control of the player and you're specifically trying to build an intrigue character, I think this is one of the better ones to get. So instead of giving it to your companion, I think you should keep this in your inventory. This is a good personality trait for your character to have in order to influence your sons or your wards. If you're raising a child and you want them to be in intrigue education, this is a good one to have. So, you know what? I'm going to put that and keep in your inventory. I don't mind Arbitrary. It's actually not that bad. Okay, what's up next? Okay, Lustful. Lustful is one of those that has some good... It has some upsides and it has some downsides. This is another one of those that boosts intrigue. It's an intrigue skill, +2 to intrigue. But the real value is plus 25% fertility to whoever has this. I do value fertility very highly. I don't think I would put it in equip, because when I'm in control of my character, there are plenty of ways for you to boost your fertility without having to get lustful. So, and I mean, these are personality traits. These are things that you're stuck with for your entire life. So I don't value the fertility boost from Lustful as much because there are other ways to boost fertility. So I don't think it goes up high on the list. I do think it's useful to give to other people. Like, if, let's just say I'm my character, I want to have children, and I'm a single character and I want to start having children, a spouse with Lustful would be pretty attractive to me. Just to make sure that I had some children in an emergency situation. I think I'm going to put it in companion equipment. I think under the control of the player, you can manage your fertility just fine enough. I wouldn't prioritize it for its intrigue because it doesn't give you as much intrigue as Arbitrary does. So if you're interested in doing an intrigue thing, it's not high on the list. That fertility is really good though. It reduces the amount of time it takes to seduce people as well. Or no, people who have this, it takes less time for you to seduce them. If you have this, I don't think it reduces. I'm just going to put it in companion equipment. I don't think it's good enough to put up here. If you're interested in intrigue stuff, you've got Arbitrary right here. Still valuable, though. It's not a scary trait. Doesn't have a lot of downsides. But if you value fertility, there are other things you can do for that. So I'll put it here. There is the added downside to... Some religions consider this sinful. I'm not taking that into consideration, whatever a religion considers sinful or not, because it depends on what kind of religion you are, so your results may vary. But if you are playing as a Catholic faction in CK3, I think Lustful is considered a sin. So maybe that does bump it down. That's another reason not to put it in your inventory. That's a reason to give it to your companion. Okay, what's next? Zealous. I do enjoy Zealous. +2 Martial. It's a Martial-focused personality trait. Plus 20% monthly piety. I don't value that so much unless you really, really need piety. There's so many things you can do to get piety, so I don't value that a lot. If you're trying to convert somebody that is zealous and they're not your faith, so let's just say you brought in a character into your court that's not your religion and they're zealous, it's going to be harder to convert them. So that is kind of a downside, but it's slightly counteracted by the fact that this is one of those traits that makes it easier to manage your line of succession, just like Patient. If you have a child that's zealous, it makes it a lot easier to convince them to join a holy order or to take the vows. So since it has that added perk to it, I might put it in your inventory. It's a useful tool to have, and I wouldn't even mind my main character having Zealous. It's not bad. Doesn't have a lot of downsides to it. Zealot vassals increase their opinion by 15, and anybody else who's zealous gets an opinion boost by 15. Oh, and anybody who's your faith, ooh, that definitely bumps it up because that covers a lot of people. Your realm is typically homogenous when it comes to a religion, and you typically share the religion of your vassals, and you typically share the religion of your liege lord. And that's a good way to boost opinions of people of your faith. You know what? That might even bump it up to equip. I do like Zealous. In fact, the character that I have right now that I'm playing Elder Kings 2 with, he has Zealous, and I've gotten a lot of use out of it. So you know what? I think I'm going to put it at equip. Not that many downsides. It does affect people of other faiths negatively by quite a bit, but who cares? Who cares about those people? That's typically people of other realms. That's definitely... the more I think about it, the more I want to put it in equip. I value Zealous a lot. The added perk of making it easier to convince your children to get out of your line of succession by either joining a holy order or taking the vows makes it that much better. So I'm putting Zealous in equip, definitely. Hold on to Zealous. Alright, next up is Eccentric. Where are you, baby? I don't come across Eccentric a lot in my playthroughs. -2 diplomacy, but +2 learning, so a net neutral skill bonus. Plus 50% stress gain, so you gain a lot of stress, but -50% or plus 50% stress loss. So when you gain a lot of stress, you gain a bunch of it, but when you lose a lot of stress, you lose a bunch of it. So this is one of those personality traits that, if under the control of the player, can be managed pretty well. Maybe not so much under the control of somebody else, because I don't see the AI... I don't see characters who have Eccentric that are under the control of the AI doing well with stress. I just don't see it happening. But if under the control of the player, I think that's a manageable kind of downside. Sure, you're going to make a bunch of stress, but if you're playing the game right and you understand how to manage stress, you should be okay. So the real benefit to Eccentric is plus 20% monthly lifestyle experience. That is really good if you're trying to get through your lifestyles faster. Plus 20% is not insignificant. I think I want to keep it in the inventory. It's just, if I were to give this to a character, like if I had Eccentric and I could manage it well as the player character, but if I were to give this to one of my sons, like if I were to influence one of my children and gave them this, I see them dying, like, instantly. And it doesn't really help with skills, so it doesn't make it that valuable. I don't think it's that bad. I definitely wouldn't prioritize it over any of these other ones, but I think it kind of deserves to be on the same level as Lustful. If under the control of the player, I think it can be managed, and I think the plus 20% monthly lifestyle experience is valuable. So if being controlled by the player, it has its value, but under the control of anybody else, I don't see it working out for them. I see this personality trait getting characters killed. Characters that are under the control of the AI. So I think this is a good place for it. I'll give it to my companion. I won't keep it in my inventory. I'll put it there. Alright, what's up next? Fickle. Not another personality trait that I don't see too often. It's a pretty simple personality trait. There's not a lot of downsides, but there's not a lot of upsides either. It's a pretty neutral trait. Sorry, I'm just going to take a sip of water. I talk too much and I lose my voice a lot, so I have to take occasional sips of water. But Fickle isn't that bad. It doesn't have that many downsides. Hopefully I don't find myself doing this as like a top-heavy tier list, but that's just the order that these are coming in. They seem to be coming in that order. Since it doesn't really have any downsides, and it does benefit you in diplomacy, which I value, but you lose to stewardship, which I also value. I value stewardship higher than diplomacy. but you get 1 intrigue. And it's harder for people to scheme against you. I don't think it's an essential, but I think Fickle is one of those personality traits that you can give to somebody that you're trying to build as an intrigue character, because it does give a slight bonus. It's only +1, but there won't be any... This is not a personality trait. You're not creating a liability if you give somebody this trait. Somebody who's Fickle, I don't see them scheming against you. So if you have like a child and you want to build them in an intrigue education and you want to give them a personality trait that helps with intrigue, I think Fickle is a safe one to give them. Just like Calm. I don't think I value it as high as Calm. How many skill points do you get from Calm? You still get +1 intrigue from Calm, so maybe they are on the same. But you get some more added benefits from Calm, but you don't get any downsides to Fickle, so I think they kind of deserve to be on the same level. I think Fickle is good. It's not a scary trait. When I see somebody... If I had a courtier that I was giving a job that makes them a powerful agent, if I gave them Fickle, I don't think I would be afraid of them. So I think I'm going to keep that right there. Fickle, I'll keep that in your inventory. Alright, I think we found one that's going to definitely become Equip. I love Humble. Humble's really good, especially for opinions. Where are you at, Humble? Which is the opposite of Arrogant. Where are you at, Humble? It's right here, yeah. So, Diligent is the opposite of Lazy. Zealous is the opposite of Cynical. Humble is the opposite of Arrogant. I do like Humble because I like giving this to my children. This is another one of those traits that if you give this to them, it'll be easier to get them to take the vows. But I also value this to give to, like, vassals, because if I'm creating vassals and they're humble, that helps with opinions. So I definitely value this. I value it to give it to children, and I value it for vassals to have it. You get more piety monthly, plus 10%, or plus 10 opinion of liege. So if you're humble and you have a liege, it'll improve their opinion. Plus 10 opinion of vassals. So if you're a liege and you have vassals that are humble, you get an opinion. No, you get vassals will get a plus 10 opinion if you're humble. They like that. I'm sorry, getting mixed up here. And anybody who's arrogant doesn't like you, so not that many downsides. Basically no downsides besides the minus 15 opinion for people who are arrogant. And depending on your campaign, there might not be that many arrogant people running around, but I do definitely value humble very highly. For my character, because there's no downsides, and for children, in order to convince them to take the vows. And for vassals, because it improves their opinion. No skill points. You don't get any skill points from this at all, so it doesn't help your skills. But I think it still has value. Yeah, it just has so many uses. Convincing children who are humble to take the vows makes it super easy. I do like that. And it's considered virtuous to, I think, to any religion. I think if you're pious, and no matter what religion you are, it's considered a virtue. Or maybe not, but good trait to have, no downsides. I value it very highly. Alright, next is Gregarious. This is a diplomatic-themed one, with not that many downsides and a lot of upsides. This is just how they're ordered, guys. I promise. I'm not going to order... This is not going to be top-heavy. We'll eventually get to some down here. But Gregarious, I do value. +2 diplomacy. I value diplomacy very much. Plus 0.1 to monthly influence if you're in a administrative-style government. So we are an administrative in this campaign, but I do not have... I'm not Gregarious, but if I did have Gregarious, I would get more monthly influence from it. At this point of the campaign, 0.1 monthly influence isn't that much, so maybe it's a perk that doesn't really carry... It doesn't have a lot of value later on. At least that part of it. the monthly influence, so I don't think I value that so much. Don't think I value that so much. Still a good trait, though. I do value the diplomacy. Reduces the amount of time it takes to do personal schemes against other people. Other people who are gregarious get +10 to their opinion. Courtly vassals like this. So if you have courtly vassals, they get +5 to their opinion, which isn't really that much when you think about it. +5. If you fail a sway scheme, it causes you to get stress. But if you're, but feasting allows you to reduce stress. So maybe I'll put that up here. Gregarious is not a scary trait. If I had to give this to a child, I would not be against it. So definitely a trait that I don't. I'm putting in inventory. Maybe even equip, I would say, Gregarious, but I don't value diplomacy as much as I value stewardship or learning. So because of that, I think I'm going to put it in the inventory. Keep it in your inventory. This is a good trait to give to children. +2 diplomacy is pretty good at the start of a campaign to help with opinions. You know what? I'm going to switch. I think I'm going to switch these two. I still think this is useful to give to people that you want to have a good intrigue education without them being scary. So, and this one does give you some diplomacy, but it's... I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. It's the same amount. I think I value Gregarious more. It just has more bonuses to it than this one does. There's more value to Gregarious than there is for Fickle, but Fickle is still good. But since they kind of have the same use, since they're bringing the same amount of diplomacy, I'm going to bump Fickle down, and I'll keep Gregarious as keeping your inventory. Give Fickle to your companion, but prioritize Gregarious. I would prioritize Gregarious over Fickle for my character. So on to Ambitious. This is another one with a caveat. I think I would normally put Ambitious into the top tier because I do value it, especially at the beginning of a campaign, because it does bring you a lot of skill points. +1 to all of your skills and +1 prowess. So at the beginning of a campaign, I definitely value that. I'm valuing it in this campaign. We can just look at it here since my character has it. That +25% stress gain is manageable when under the control of the character. Like, I can manage this. Gloryhound vassals like it more. We have to ignore this Arcana because I'm playing Elder Kings too. But I value these skill points at the beginning of a campaign, so while I would initially say equip this, because I think I did start the campaign with this because this is my first character. So I did give him this when I created him. But I think I value Diligent more than Ambitious, because if I had to choose one, I would choose Diligent, and when I would normally choose Ambitious, I'm not going to put it in Equip, because I don't think I would want my character to have both of these, because the stress penalties that you get from both of them are definitely really dangerous, especially under the control of like an AI character. If there's an AI character that has Diligent and Ambitious, they're getting -50% stress loss, and they're getting +25% stress gain. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bump Ambitious down, because I think I would choose Diligent for my starting character over Ambitious, even though you get a lot of skill points from both of them. But both of them in the same character is a liability. So if you really think you can handle it, which I think I would be able to handle it under the control of the player, if you had both of these, you might be able to manage the stress problems reasonably well. But if the AI character had both of these traits, they would just get themselves killed. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put them both in equip. I'm going to choose one to equip, and I'm going to choose one to keep in your inventory. I do like ambitious, but I don't trust AI characters. Like, if I had a child and I gave them diligent and ambitious, I wouldn't trust them to not stress out constantly. So I value diligent more. I'll put diligent in equip, and I'll keep ambitious in inventory. This is a trait that I value very highly. You do get some opinion penalties. Characters who are both ambitious at the same time, they kind of butt heads because ambitious people don't like one another. So it does have that added downside, but me being ambitious and me giving, oh, see, like my son here, I gave diligent. I didn't give him ambitious. But giving my children ambitious as well, like I gave this son ambitious. This incapable son, I gave him ambitious, and at this point in the campaign, the opinion penalties that you suffer from sharing ambitious with other people, I mean, this is late campaign, but even early campaign, it's not that big of a deal. I don't think this is as bad of a downside as other people might. Opinion of Leash, minus 15. That's not that bad either. This is the worst part of it. So, since this is the worst part of it, and it does give you a lot of skill points, since I wouldn't couple it with Diligent, I'm not putting Ambitious in S tier, or not S tier, I'm not equipping Ambitious, I'm putting it in inventory. Still a really good trait, though. Gives you a lot of skill points, and when under the control of the player, this is possible. But when under the control of not the character, it doesn't really become possible. So we're bumping Ambitious down to inventory. Okay, Lazy, I think we finally come across a trait that I'm putting down. How long is this so far? Oh my god, we're a half an hour in and we're barely halfway through these. I'll try to speed up. Okay, Lazy is an easy one. We're dropping Lazy. Lazy is the opposite of, where are you? Oh yeah, Lazy is the opposite of Diligent. So since I value Diligent very highly, since Lazy is the opposite, I definitely value this very lowly. So I think we've come across our first drop. This is the first item we're going to drop. -1 Diplomacy, -1 Intrigue, -1 Stewardship, -1 Martial and Learning. It does help with stress, plus 50% stress loss, but I don't value that very highly. If you're getting this in order to help you relieve stress, if you said to yourself, oh, I want this person, or I want this child to be able to relieve stress easier, so I'm going to give them Lazy, you're doing things wrong. I think you're going into the personality for the wrong reason. This is an easy down at the bottom list. It's basically the opposite of Diligent, so easy one. That makes this one quick. Just really, really heavy item, not very valuable item. So an easy first choice. Upon walking out of the dungeon, this is an easy first item to drop from your inventory. Avoid at all costs. You shouldn't have even picked this up when you were looting the dungeon. You should have just left that on the ground. Okay, here's another one. Callous. Probably another low one. Maybe not necessarily dropping it, because it does have some benefits, but they're few and far between. -2 Diplomacy for +2 Intrigue, so a net neutral skill gain with Callous. Plus 25% Dread gain, so if you're kind of building a Dread character, this can help you out. If you're trying to focus on building Dread, that is a bonus to it. Reduces the amount of Dread that decays, so if you're trying to make Dread and keep it, Callous is pretty good. But it does have some opinion penalties, which makes sense because you're a Callous person. So, -5 Attraction Opinion, -5 Close Family Opinion, and -10 Courtly Vassal Opinion. I do tend to have a lot of Courtly Vassals. Courtly Vassals is what I have the most of in this campaign. Now, don't take this as gospel, but you know, I've played a lot of campaigns, and I do tend to have a lot of Courtly Vassals. So, in making sure their opinion is okay is pretty high priority, especially if you're in the early part of a campaign. So, that definitely bumps Callous down the list. Since it doesn't really help you with, since it doesn't really help you with skill points, because it's a net neutral with skill points, and since if you're trying to build an intrigue character, there are other personality traits that I would prioritize to give them that are less of a liability, like Arbitrary or Fickle or Calm. So if you're trying to build an intrigue character, go for these and try to avoid this one. But if you have no other choice and you just have a hard-on for trying to get dread, this is pretty good, but I would definitely not put it above any of these. So I think this is a safe spot for Callous. Good for dread, neutral on skills, and it just has some stress. I mean, it has opinion penalties. And if you tend to release prisoners without getting like a hook or something on them, if you're the kind of person that tends to free prisoners for no reason without getting any kind of leverage on them, this causes you to stress out if you do that. So just another penalty. So if you're hyper focused on like a dread build, get it. But if you're not hyper focused on a dread build, I see no reason to do it. So it has a minor use, but it's not even good enough for your companion to equip. So we'll put it in companion inventory. Okay, Chaste. Not that many downsides. It does have a reduction in fertility, so I definitely wouldn't prioritize this in somebody that I'm trying to marry or in like a family member. If I'm trying to extend my family and if I want children to have a bunch of children themselves, I will definitely try to avoid giving Chaste. And I tend not to give it to my own character. It doesn't have that many downsides. It's just the fertility reduction that I don't value. People who are chaste, it takes longer to seduce them. So if you like to do a lot of seduction spams, which is something that I have been doing in this campaign here, seducing people over and over again. Like, for instance, this is a great example. My wife in this campaign has chaste, and I want her to have a lot of children, because I want to keep producing children in this campaign. I've had a lot of children that have died in this campaign. So I want my wife to have a lot of kids, and I want to seduce her a lot, but in order for me to seduce her, it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to increase the length of those seduce schemes, which means I'm going to get fewer seduce schemes in. You know what I mean? So don't value this very highly. I think the one thing I value about Chaste, I think the one use that I can think for it is it's another one of those traits that helps you manage your line of succession. If you have a child that's chaste, it's easier to convince them to take the vows or join a holy order. So it does have that added use, but I tend to avoid it. I definitely avoid it enough that I don't... I think I would put it in companion inventory, but because it has the added use of making it easier to manage my line of succession, I think that deserves to bump it up to companion equipment. I definitely wouldn't prioritize it for my character, my own character. I would definitely avoid giving it to, like, my children. Unless I'm trying to manage my line of succession. I think companion equipment is a good place for it. We're going to put it right here. Doesn't have that many downsides. The minus 25% fertility is bad, but that's not so bad if you can manage it well enough. Like, if your character has minus 25% fertility, with not that much work, you can counteract this. So I'm not going to put it down here, I'm putting it here. Alright, Cynical's next. Where are you, Cynical? We need the raw numbers right in front of us. Definitely an intrigue-favoring personality trait. Where you at, Cynical? Cynical does have another added value that I'm going to talk about once I can frickin' find it here. Here it is. +2 intrigue. I'm so sorry, guys. +2 intrigue, +2 learning, minus piety. So you're not going to get as much piety monthly, minus 20%. Not that big of a deal. Think you can manage that. Piety's not that hard to get. You can get piety through items. You can get piety by going on pilgrimages and stuff. It's harder to convert people who are cynical. So if there's a cynical person of a different faith, you're going to have a harder time trying to convert them. But I do like the bonuses that it gives you in terms of skill points. +2 learning and +2 intrigue. And this is the opposite of the Zealous trait. So even though it's the opposite of a trait that I put up at the top, I don't think it's so bad that it deserves to be dropped. I can see myself giving this to a character that I'm trying to build as an intrigue build. Hopefully that character is already my religion, because if they become a heretic, it's going to be harder to convince them to reconvert to my religion. And if a child has this, it's going to make it harder to convince them to take the vows because they're cynical. So that definitely bumps it down on the list. I don't see myself giving this to my kids. If I did see myself giving it to my kids, I would bump it up the list. But maybe there's somebody in my court. Maybe there's a courtier in my court that is cynical, and it's helping with their intrigue, and it's making them function well at a job that requires intrigue. You know what I mean? So if, like, I have a spy master that's cynical, it's not going to make them scary to... It's not going to cause them to want to scheme against me. Maybe a little bit. I value the skill points that it gives you, but thinking about, do I want to give it to myself or my children? No is the answer in both cases. And if I don't want to give it to myself and I don't want to give it to my children, I do see myself giving it to other people, but it's going to bump it down the list. I think I'm going to put Cynical here. It just makes it hard to convince people of different faiths to convert. And I think this has a negative effect on zealot vassals. I was about to say, do people of your religion have a negative opinion gain, or a negative opinion penalty because of this? They don't. So people of the same faith don't dislike you if you have this. But people with this trait tend to have secrets. Like, people who are cynical tend to be non-believers, and people who are cynical tend to become witches more often, which is a liability. So I don't value it in my own characters or close family members, but I might value that in somebody that I'm trying to get a hook against, because it makes it more likely that they're going to have a secret. I'm spending too long on this. I think because it makes it harder to convince children to take the vows, I'm bumping it down here. I might have put it up here, but I'm bumping it down here for that reason. It's not that bad. Because of the skill bonuses that it gives you, I value it enough to not drop. So we'll keep it in our companion's inventory. Alright, Generous. On to the next one. +3 diplomacy. I do value that. Minus 10% monthly income. I don't like that. Maybe later in your campaign when you're making a bunch of money. Like in my campaign right now. Like, I'm making so much money currently that minus 10% isn't that bad. It's not that big of a penalty. But I can definitely see that minus 10% income affecting you a lot more in the early game. It's not that it's a bad trait. It doesn't have that many downsides. The main downside is the minus 10 income, but it's not a scary trait by any means. I do value diplomacy. Demanding money from people incurs stress, and gifting money to people. Yeah, demanding money from people causes stress, and giving money to people reduces stress. So in the early campaign, I tend not to gift money to people very often. Like, if I need to improve opinions, I can see that being the only reason why I'm gifting money to people is to improve their opinions, which is something I don't do a lot. I don't tend to bribe people a lot, and that doesn't have a lot of value in the early game, because in the early game, there's not a lot of money going around. If you watch my tier list, you know at the beginning of the campaign, I tend to prioritize stewardship in order to maximize the amount of money that I'm making early on, and this kind of works against it. So, do I see myself giving it to either myself or my children? Yes, but not early on in a campaign, especially for my character if I'm trying to make money. But it is good. If you demand a lot of money, it's not going to be good, because that's going to cause stress a lot. And that is an easy way to make money early on. Like, if you're getting hooks on people early on in a campaign, you can use those hooks to get money from people. If you're generous in that case, it's going to cause you to stress out. I don't think it's scary enough to either drop or give. I see myself giving this to children, but not myself early on in a campaign. But I do value the diplomacy, the +3 diplomacy. So I'll put it here. Since I'm willing to give it to other people, I value it highly. But not early on. Content is next. Alright, content is definitely a good one. Maybe not one that I would prioritize for myself, but maybe one that I would put in my inventory. Let's take a look at it. -1 intrigue, so not good if you're trying to be an intrigue focus. +2 learning, I do value that more than intrigue. +10% stress loss, so it helps with stress loss. Couples well with diligent, because the stress penalties that you're getting from diligent, if you're also content, it helps you kind of counteract the stress penalties that you get from diligent, but I don't know if I'm going to put it at the top. Let's keep going. +20 opinion of liege if you have one, so if you're a vassal underneath a liege lord, your liege lord will like you more if you're content. So I can see this helping you early on, maybe in your early game into your mid game, helping you have good opinion with your liege. But once you become the liege of whatever realm, like once you become the king or the emperor, that opinion gain kind of loses its bonus. But if you have vassals that are content, you gain more stress from claiming throne, which is not something I tend to do a lot. Executing non-criminal prisoners causes you to stress out if you're content. And if you force yourself onto your liege's council, it causes you to stress out. So if you use that interaction, if you force yourself onto your liege lord's council, it'll cause you to stress out. I do like it because it couples well with diligent. I want to say put it on here, but and this is another one of those traits that helps convince your children to either take the vows or join a holy order. So I do value it highly in that respect. I can see myself giving this to my children, maybe not myself. Humble has the added benefit of being considered a virtuous trait, which I don't think content normally is. So I think I'm going to put content here. Definitely a valuable personality trait. I do value the learning. You're not getting much skill pump bonuses out of because you're losing intrigue. So not something you would give to somebody who you're trying to build as an intrigue focus. You would want to do arbitrary for that, but still a valuable trait. I do like the personality trait. If I'm being forced to give this to a child, I wouldn't be upset. And I do like it when my vassals are content. So I'm going to keep it right here. Keep it in your inventory. Don't prioritize it. Since it has like the same effect as Humble, I think I would prioritize Humble over Content. Okay, Craven. Where am I putting Craven? Now, Craven's an interesting one. Craven has some uses. Maybe not necessarily for you, the player character, so I don't think I'm going to put it up here, but maybe it'll get pretty high up on the list. It has a lot of uses. I like it when other people are Craven, because it increases the chances that they're either intimidated or terrified by you. So if people are Craven, if you have courtiers that are Craven, and if they're terrified or intimidated, they're less likely to scheme against you, so I definitely value that. But what kind of skills is it getting you? -2 Martial, +2 Intrigue, -3 Prowess. So, not something you want to give to a knight. Reduces the odds of you getting captured or dying on the field of battle, which is kind of a pointless bonus from it, because I'm not sending Craven characters into battle. So even though even though it reduces... Did I say it increases the chance? I'm sorry. It reduces the risks of a character getting killed or getting captured in battle. But that's redundant because I don't send Cravens into battle. Because Craven characters tend not to make good knights or good commanders because it negatively affects Martial. You know what I mean? But it's kind of funny because I do value giving it to other characters, just not my children. Unless I'm landing them. If I'm landing my children, it would make them a more pliable vassal because it's more likely that they'll be intimidated or terrified. But would I want my own character to have it? Absolutely not. I don't value giving it to my children very much. So I definitely don't value it for my character. I don't value it for my children. I do value it for like courtiers or maybe powerful vassals because it'll make them more pliable. I think I'll keep Craven here. It has a use. It has a very powerful use. If you have a character in your court that's Craven, they might be... This is the kind of person that I would put in a powerful position. This is the kind of person that I would be more willing to make like a food taster. Somebody who's considered a powerful agent in schemes against you. So, like, your physician is a powerful agent. Your food taster is a powerful agent in schemes against you. Your cupbearer is. So, if there's a character in my court that I want to make a food taster or a cupbearer, if they're Craven, I'm more willing to give them the job. Because it does help with intrigue, which helps these jobs, and if they're Craven, I'm more willing to give them this position because they're less likely to scheme against me because they're most likely either intimidated or terrified of me. See what I'm saying? So, it has its uses, Craven. Wouldn't give it to children, really. Wouldn't give it to knights. Wouldn't give it to myself. I would give it to courtiers or maybe vassals, so I don't think it's going to go down really low. Glory Hound vassals don't like it. -15 opinion. I do have a lot of Glory Hound vassals. But But that's this campaign. But I think as you as the player, if you're careful about who you're choosing and you're bringing into court, if the person is skilled enough, I'll take this guy. I'll take them into my court. I'm not scared about them scheming against me. I say give this to your companion, and I think it's fitting that it's going in your companion's equipment, just not your knights. Okay, as long as they're not doing anything battle related, give them Craven. Craven is okay. I can get use out of that. Just don't give it to your children or yourself. But give it to useful counselors. Okay, honest. I'm going to try to get through these a little bit faster. I'm sorry, but probably... We just hit an hour, so I'll speed it up. Honest, what's... Where are you, honest? +2 diplomacy, -4 intrigue, so a net negative in the amount of skill points you get. Definitely something that should be avoided if you're trying to build an intrigue character. +5 courtly vassal opinion. Other people who are honest like you more, and people who are deceitful like you less. You gain stress when you're blackmailing people, and I tend to blackmail people a lot. Getting hooks on people is very powerful in CK3. And if you want to get hooks on people, you have to blackmail them. So unless you really have stress under control, I wouldn't prioritize getting honest for your own character. Not even for, like, a child. I don't think I would give honest to a child. If I had all of these other choices against it, would I give them honest? Definitely, yeah, because you get the fertility boost. I would give a child this just for the fertility. I would give a child this just to make it easier to convince them to take the vows. Honest doesn't help me convince them to take the vows. It's a net negative. I would avoid it for intrigue characters. It does help with opinions because it's good for diplomacy people, but there are other skills up here that are better for diplomacy, like Gregarious or Fickle. I would get these traits if I'm trying to build a diplomacy character over this. Just because of the stress gain that you get from getting hooks on people, I value it very lowly. I don't like that. I blackmail a lot of people. Not a very good trait. Don't value it highly. If you're looking for diplomacy, go for these other ones. Go for Gregarious, or go for Fickle. I'll take those over honest. It's okay for other people to have them. Like, if I have a vassal that's honest, you know, they're safe to give jobs and stuff. Maybe that should bump it up. Giving somebody a court position who's honest, I would definitely trust them more. It's an honorable trait, so somebody who's honest would have a better personality. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to bump it up to here. It's not going down into companion inventory. I think it's good enough to go into equipment. I definitely wouldn't prioritize to give this to a child, but I see myself being able to use this well. Maybe not for myself, but other people who are honest, I definitely value as courtiers, and to give positions, because they're less likely to scheme against me. So just for that, I value it highly enough to put it in companion equipment. Definitely wouldn't... If I was willing to give it to a child, I would bump it up to here, but I'm not. I would definitely give these to a child over this. Alright, forgiving is another interesting one. Forgiving actually kind of has more downsides than it has upsides. It does have some downsides. I mean, it does have some good upsides, but it doesn't have that many. Stress gain through blackmailing, stress gaining through imprisoning people, stress gain through murdering people, stress gain through title revocations, and through torturing people. So if you're trying to do a an intrigue build, you should avoid forgiving like the plague. Really bad for stress. It gives you +2 diplomacy, so it's a diplomacy focused trait. -2 intrigue, so definitely not good for intrigue builds. Your prisoners like you more, which is kind of a useless opinion gain. +15 prisoner opinion, I do not value that very highly. +15 minority vassal opinion. Minority vassals are typically the hardest ones to please, but you tend to have the least amount of them. The most amount of vassals you're going to have are courtly vassals, glory hound, parochial, and zealot, and then the rest are the minority. So I don't really value that +15 minority vassal opinion from forgiving. Yeah, if you're trying to rule your realm, if you're a ruler, this is just going to make your job impossible. It's going to get in your way. If I wasn't able to blackmail without taking stress, that would be a pain in the butt. If I wasn't able to murder people, especially in this campaign, I've murdered. Look how many people I've murdered. If every single one of these murders caused me to get stress every time, like I wouldn't be able to do my job. So forgiving is not a good trait. It's not that it's necessarily a negative trait, but it prevents you from being able to do your job as like a ruler, so I wouldn't prioritize it for your character, definitely. If you want diplomacy, I would get Gregarious or Calm or Fickle. Or Generous, even. I value forgiving very lowly. Sure, if you're trying to play an honorable character, if that's how you're role-playing, get forgiving, but if you're trying to be a good ruler, I would avoid it. +10 opinion for other forgiving people, and -10 opinion for people who are vengeful, because that's the opposite of this. So, the one that we're about to do next. So, vengeful people don't like forgiving people. Yeah, I'm keeping it down here. I would definitely prefer one of these traits over forgiving. Even Craven, because I can get more uses out of Craven than I can out of forgiving. So forgiving is... I wouldn't say drop it. I would say give it to your companion to put in their inventory. Alright, on to Vengeful. Definitely something you want to prioritize if you're doing an intrigue build. But probably not the one that I would prioritize for intrigue. Where are you at? Vengeful. -2 diplomacy. +2 intrigue. +2 prowess. +15% dread gain. So if you're doing a dread build, that's right up your alley. So couples well with, was it Arbitrary that gave you dread gain? Yes, +15 natural dread that you get from Arbitrary. So if you're trying to do a dread build and you already have Arbitrary, which is giving you the +15 natural dread, if you want to maintain your dread or you're really trying to stack up dread, Vengeful is good for that. So if you're trying to do a dread thing, Vengeful is definitely useful. +2 intrigue, not that bad. +2 prowess, not that bad. So okay for like a knight to have, but not a bodyguard. So if like I had a bodyguard, I would definitely not give them... I wouldn't hire somebody as a bodyguard that was vengeful. In fact, I wouldn't give them any job that runs the risk of me getting killed by them or something. So somebody who's vengeful, I wouldn't make my food taster, and somebody who's vengeful, I wouldn't make my bodyguard. Even though the bodyguard would benefit from the prowess gain that you get from Vengeful, +2 prowess gain. I don't value that very highly, because if I have a knight that I want to improve their prowess, or if I want to improve anybody's prowess, there are so many ways to do that. You can give them items, you know? So that prowess gain, I don't value that highly either. But it does improve your chances of successful schemes. So if you're using it, if the player is using it, it does help you scheme more. It does have its uses. I admit that if you're doing an intrigue thing, getting Vengeful would be useful to you. I don't think I would give it to my children. I might be willing to give it to my own character. But I don't think I want to give it to... Like, courtiers with Vengeful, I tend to tell to get out. I tell them to leave. You know what? I'm going to put it down here. Even though it would be good for an intrigue build, there's another one that I value more than Vengeful. I just think it's too much of a liability. If you have characters running around in your court that are Vengeful, you need to be looking over your shoulder. Unless you're really on top of opinions, or unless your dread build is so dreaded that basically everybody is, like, terrified of you, unless you have that kind of protection, I wouldn't get Vengeful. If I was trying to do something fun, like I was creating my own character and I wanted to do, like, an intrigue build, maybe I would give it to myself, but only in certain circumstances. So I don't personally value Vengeful very highly for myself or for my children. Just not that useful of a trait, in my opinion. Sure, it makes your schemes easier, but there are ways to improve your scheme success chance, like agents, or improving your own intrigue skill. Maybe getting into the intrigue lifestyle and boosting your own intrigue skill that way. I think this is a personality trait to be avoided. So avoid this unless you're really trying to build an intrigue character or like a dread build. Okay, where am I going to put Stubborn? Stubborn's a pretty simple trait. Not that much associated with Stubborn. +3 Stewardship, which is a lifestyle that I value. Also, a small boost to your health. So a small health boost from Stubborn. -5 Liege Opinion, so if you do have a Liege Lord, it reduces their opinion, but not that much. 5 opinion is not that much. Courtly Vassal Opinion is reduced by 10, and Parochial Vassal Opinion is reduced by 10. So maybe later in a campaign, it would have those opinion penalties will be more of a problem, because unless you're somebody who has vassals at all, like if you're just starting the campaign and you don't have that many vassals, those opinion penalties don't really matter to you because you don't have any you don't have any vassals yet. So maybe you're starting the campaign as a count. That would be a really powerful trait to get, I think, actually. And I think by the later stages of the campaign, by the time you start accumulating a bunch of vassals, even if their opinions are affected negatively by the fact that your character has Stubborn, I think you should be doing well enough by that stage of the campaign that opinions shouldn't be an issue. But then again, you should also be at a point in your campaign where getting that extra stewardship shouldn't be an issue either. You know what? I actually think Stubborn is a great starting trait, because it gives you that early boost to your stewardship +3. And it gives you that small health boost. So maybe early on in a campaign when you haven't been able to protect yourself against plagues or against, like, diseases, having a character that starts with Stubborn is a good way to protect yourself early on against diseases. You know what? I actually value Stubborn pretty highly. Maybe not so much that I will put it at the top, because I'm trying to limit the amount of things that I put up at the top. It was close. Yeah, it definitely does have a lot of opinion penalties associated with it, but I don't think... I mean, early on in a campaign... Yeah, like I said, early on in a campaign, unless you're starting the game early on as, like, a king or somebody who has a lot of vassals, maybe this would be a problem, but I don't see it being a problem. I think I'm going to put it in your inventory. I wouldn't necessarily say equip it as your character's starting trait, but it's not a bad one. I think I would prioritize Stubborn over, like, Arbitrary, for instance. If I had to arrange them in some kind of order. That's probably what I did right there. Okay, we're gonna leave Stubborn in inventory because I can see myself getting use out of it. Early game, boost to my stewardship, helping me make money early on in the campaign. As long as I don't have that many vassals underneath me, I like this. I also value that small health boost, so I wouldn't say equip it, but it's definitely worthy of being put in your inventory. Because I value that small health boost. Okay, what's next? Sadistic? Alright, here's another one. Probably something that I'm going to put pretty low down here. This is one of those traits that, unless you want to roleplay as like an evil character, or if you want to do like an intrigue build, you can do it. You could get Sadistic because it does help you with intrigue, +2 to your intrigue. +4 prowess. So it might be helpful to give to like a knight. If you have like a knight that's Sadistic, that does benefit them. But I wouldn't want to give... I wouldn't want to hire a bodyguard that's Sadistic. I value bodyguards that have high prowess because it helps them do their job. But if in exchange for that high prowess, it's going to make them scarier and make them want to scheme against me more, I wouldn't hire them as a bodyguard. So I wouldn't hire a Sadistic bodyguard even if it boosts their prowess by a little bit. It's only 3 prowess. I think this is a trait to be avoided. Like, I definitely wouldn't try to give it to my children. You do get a lot of natural dread, though, so this is good for, like, a dread build. I think you can find a use for it. I won't put it in, I think Sadistic gets a 1-up over Vengeful, because I can see getting that prowess. I can see myself hiring knights that are Sadistic, because they'll tend to have higher prowess. With Vengeful, you don't get a prowess boost. Oh, yes you do, you get +2. You lose stress when executing people if you're Sadistic. And you reduce stress when you're murdering people if you're Sadistic. So those are some added benefits that Vengeful doesn't give you. So maybe if you're trying to do like an intrigue build or like a dread build, instead of getting Vengeful or over Vengeful, I would get Sadistic. I think I would hire a bodyguard who's Sadistic and has good prowess over a bodyguard that's Vengeful and isn't getting as much prowess. So I think I value Sadistic more than I do Vengeful. People who are Sadistic tend to get a lot of secrets. So like if you want to get a secret against somebody, let's just say you have a vassal, you have a powerful vassal that's Sadistic, more likely than not, you'll be able to get a secret on them because they've probably killed somebody. Okay, I think the intrigue bonuses and the dread bonuses that you get from Sadistic make it more valuable than Vengeful. So I'm putting it above Vengeful. If you're doing a dread build or an intrigue build, I would recommend this. If you're doing a dread build specifically, do this, but remember, you're getting dread from Arbitrary without the liabilities of Sadistic. So I value, even though you're not getting as much dread from Arbitrary, you're getting more from Sadistic, but Arbitrary is less of a liability for other characters to have, whereas this is. So it's definitely going under Arbitrary, but still a good personality trait if you want to do a Dread build or some kind of intrigue build. Okay, next is Martial. Or I mean, next is Wrathful. I'm checking my list, and then checking it twice. -1 Diplomacy, +3 Martial, +20 Natural Dread. So another good way to do like a Dread build if that's what you're after. -10 Courtly Vassal Opinion, +5 to your Glory Hound Vassal Opinion, which isn't that much, only +5. And then -10 Parochial Vassal Opinion. Enables the Punish Criminal interaction. If you're trying to do a Dread build, I think this is another good one for you to get. I wouldn't double up on these. I think I would just choose one. But I think I would choose Sadistic over Wrathful because, I mean, Wrathful isn't good for an intrigue build. It's good for, like, Martial. It gives you Martial. It actually negatively affects intrigue. So, I don't think I value it as much. I don't value Martial in terms of lifestyles that much. If you saw my lifestyle tier list, you know that I rank Martial, like, towards the bottom. So I don't really value the +3 Martial that you get from this. The +20 Natural Dread that you get from it can be gotten from either Sadistic or Arbitrary, so it's not as good as those for a Dread build. And it's net neutral on skill points, because you're getting +2 Martial and you're losing 2 skill points that I value more, -1 Diplomacy and -1 Intrigue. So I would even say I might put Martial down. I mean, Wrathful. Do I keep saying Martial? Wrathful. I might even put it down here, but I definitely don't think it's as bad as Lazy. It's definitely not that bad. But if you're trying to do something, if you're trying to do like a Martial build, which this might be good for, there are other traits, like the one we're about to get to, that are better for that. So I don't value this very highly. Don't value Martial very highly, but if you are trying to do a Martial build, there are other personality traits that I would get first. Not that Wrathful is a bad trait, then +20 Natural Dread is okay, but like I said, there are other Dread build-friendly personality traits that you can choose first. Okay, Brave is a pretty easy one. I don't think I would go as far as to say that I would put Brave in Equip, unless your character is somebody who's actually it's Brave is kind of a liability for your character to have, because plus 100% likelihood of capture or death in battle. So I don't think I'm going to put it in top. I do like it. It is a good personality trait, but I don't think I value it that much for my own player character. Maybe for some of my children. Brave has the benefit of making it easier to convince. Ooh. Does Forgiving? Don't quote me on this, but I'm not sure if Forgiving improves the likelihood that your children will take the vows, but I'm pretty sure that Brave does improve the odds of your children accepting joining a holy order. So Zealous and Brave couple well together for like a Martial build. Like if I have a child that's Brave and Zealous, I would basically have no trouble convincing them to join a holy order. Because I don't value Brave for my own character, because if I'm trying to fight battles, I mean, of course, I could just avoid fighting battles myself to avoid getting killed or captured in battle. But if I have, like, children who are serving as knights, Or if I have knights that I want to kind of protect, this is going to make it more likely that they're going to die in battle or get captured. You do lose stress when you're doing hunts as well. Plus 10 attraction opinion. That's actually not that bad. It's between equip or inventory. You know what? I'm deciding to put it in equip. If you're doing a martial build, and if you take care of your own character under the control of the player, even if you're brave and you're commanding armies in the field, I think if the player is doing it, you can take precautions to make sure that you don't lose battles. So if you're commanding an army that you know is never going to lose battles, like let's just say you're commanding an army with like tens of thousands of men, and you're pretty sure that you're safe enough, and then that you're not going to lose battles, I would say give it to yourself. Okay, I'm going to put it at the top. I'm going to say Brave is worthy of equipping. If at the beginning of the campaign you want to do like a martial build, I think being Brave is a logical personality trait to get for like a martial build, and I think it couples well with Zealous. +2 martial, +3 prowess, attraction opinion, glory hound vassal opinion, all really good things. Losing stress in hunts. So if I were to give this to a child, they would have an easier time reducing stress if they do a lot of hunts. So you know what? I'm going to put it in equip. Bravery is going in on the top. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, an hour and 26 minutes. Okay, we're going to speed up. Speed up, speed up, speed up. Trusting. -2 intrigue, +2 diplomacy, so neutral in terms of skills. +15 opinion of liege. +15 opinion of vassals. So I do like it when my vassals have trusting. Stress gain through blackmail of non-criminal prisoners. I don't like that. I do want to blackmail prisoners. -10 travel safety as well. Not good, not great. You're only getting +2 diplomacy. There are other diplomacy personality traits that I value if you're doing like a diplomacy thing, like Gregarious or Fickle or Shy. I mean, I'm not shy, calm. Because calm is a good personality trait for diplomacy or intrigue, whereas this one is only good for diplomacy because your intrigue is going down, even though you're getting some diplomacy. You're getting -2 intrigue, +2 diplomacy with trusting. I definitely value calm more than trusting. Definitely a trait that I wouldn't mind somebody in my court having, like if I would give a powerful position to somebody who is trusting. Okay, I think I'm going to do that. It's not that bad. It definitely doesn't deserve to be down here. And it's not on the same level as... It's not on the same level as calm for what it brings. So yeah, trusting is going in companion equipment. Not good enough for you to equip or keep in your inventory, but worthy of your companion equipping, definitely. Okay, Temperate. Temperate is traditionally one of those that I do really like. It's basically like Stubborn, but a little bit better. Because Temperate is good for stewardship builds because it does provide stewardship. It provides +2 stewardship, whereas Stubborn provides 3 stewardship. It's also a small health boost, just like Stubborn is. But Temperate doesn't come with the negative opinion baggage that Stubborn does. Just double checking my list here. I want to... Where are you, Stubborn? Stubborn is -5 Leash Opinion, -10 Courtly Vassal Opinion, -10 Parochial Vassal Opinion, -5 Minority Vassal Opinion. So, like I said, even though this might not affect you, this doesn't really affect you if you're starting as like a small person, as like a count or something. You're starting the campaign as somebody who doesn't have that many vassals. Stubborn isn't that bad, but Temperate doesn't have the baggage that Stubborn does. So if you're starting the campaign and you want to do like a stewardship build and you want the small health boost that Stubborn gives you, and you want the stewardship that Stubborn gives you without the negative opinion baggage, I would definitely gravitate towards Temperate. Temperate is a very simple perk, but that's what I like about it. It's not perk, it's a very simple personality trait. And it does have like a kind of behind the scenes added bonus to it as well. So you're getting +2 stewardship and the small health boost. Courtly vassals don't like you as much, -10, which isn't that big of a deal, but that's it. That's the only opinion penalty. Behind the scenes, the added benefit to Temperate is people tend to get fewer negative traits like becoming like a comfort eater or becoming a drunkard. Characters who are temperate tend not to get those negative traits. So this is definitely a personality trait that I see myself giving my own character at like the start of a campaign, and I can definitely see myself giving it to somebody not as important as me, like my children or my heirs. But since Stubborn is also in the inventory, but I value Temperate more, it's got to go above it. Definitely a good trait. Helps with a lifestyle that I value very highly. Just an easy choice. Health boost, not that many opinion penalties, and boost stewardship, which is one of my favorite lifestyles. So definitely equip Temperate. Okay, on to Deceitful. Trying to get through these faster. -2 diplomacy, but +4 intrigue. People who are honest don't like you, -10. Enables the study of art, study the art of scheming and decision. This is going up here. One of the traits that if you're trying to do an intrigue build that I highly recommend you get, and if there are people in your court that are deceitful, it's not as scary as people who are sadistic or people who are vengeful, in my opinion. So if you're trying to do like an intrigue build, I do value Deceitful if you want to boost your intrigue, because it doesn't give you a lot of intrigue points. +4 intrigue at the loss of -2 diplomacy. So that is a net bonus in your skill points. And if you have opinions under control, that -2 diplomacy isn't that big of a deal. So not that bad. If you're doing an intrigue build, one of the personality traits that I highly recommend. Highly, highly recommend, just like Arbitrary. Which one would I choose? I think characters who are in your court are less of a liability if they're Arbitrary as opposed to Deceitful, but I still like them both. I still do like them both. I would let my character probably be Arbitrary over Deceitful. Yeah, I think I would let my character be Arbitrary over Deceitful. But I still value it. Still an important one. Good for intrigue builds, good for scheming, good for boosting your intrigue skill, all that good stuff. So yes. Would I give it to children? Maybe not. I think I would give Arbitrary to a child over this, but that's why this is ahead of this. So Deceitful is good because it's not that much of a liability for other characters to have it. So if you have powerful vassals that don't like you that much and they're deceitful, that is pretty scary, but it's not as scary as having a powerful vassal that hates you who's vengeful or sadistic. You know what I mean? So Deceitful I do like. I think I'm going to put it right here. Okay, now on to Shy. We're almost done. Almost done, almost done. Shy is, of course, it's down at the bottom here, right? No, Shy is the opposite of Gregarious. Okay, there's a lot to Shy. -2 diplomacy, +1 learning, so net negative in terms of skills. I value learning more than diplomacy, and since you're not getting as much learning, since diplomacy is suffering quite a bit at it's just not that good. Not good in terms of skills, in my opinion. -5 attraction opinion. It does help you scheme better, +25%. No, -20 days personal scheme phase length. +20 enemy hostile scheme phase length. So people scheming against you, it takes longer for them to scheme against you. Parochial vassals like it, +10 to parochial vassals. Anybody who is also shy improves their opinion as well. It does improve your travel safety, which can be helpful, which can be pretty useful. I don't think I would give shy to one of my kids, and I definitely don't prioritize it for my own character. Shy. It's not that bad. But if you're shy, I don't think you get a stress relief from, like, feasts or doing activities. So that is a big negative to it. The question is, what do I either put it in companion equipment or do I put it in companion inventory? It does help with scheming and stuff, but if you're trying to scheme well, you're getting all the help that you can already from these personality traits towards the top. And this doesn't help you with stress relief. Yeah, because I think if you're doing feasts and stuff, you don't lose stress if you're shy. Yeah, this is definitely a personality trait that I tend to avoid giving myself or my children. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put it down here. I don't think it's so bad. Shy isn't the end of the world. Maybe it should go here instead. I think I would definitely give somebody shy over Wrathful, Vengeful, Forgiving, Cynical, or Callous. I think that's for damn sure. And if I personally had it, if my own character had it, I think I could deal with that stress, but it would make it pretty tough. And it does protect you against hostile schemes. I think I'm going to put it here. I think this is a good place for it. I don't hate it. I just don't see myself giving it to children or myself. Not that great of a personality trait, but it's not so bad that it's going to go down on the list. This is a tolerable trait. Like, think of these traits as, like, traits that I can tolerate people having. Down here, it's where I start, like, these are bad traits for people to have. I can tolerate these. I try to promote these, and then I get these at all costs. So, like, think of the tier list that way. Okay, that was actually pretty easy. Shy is going here. I think we're coming across another one of those traits that we're going to get to drop, and I like that Impatient is a picture of an hourglass that's been dropped, because we're going to drop it. I do not like Impatient at all. -2 learning. No bonuses to skills whatsoever. It's just a net negative to skills. -2 learning, which is something that I do value. That's my second most prioritized lifestyle, is learning. +20% monthly prestige. I do not value that, because there are plenty of ways to get prestige, and if you're getting impatient, saying to yourself, oh, if I get impatient, it's going to help me get more prestige. Do you know how many different ways you can get prestige? You can make items that give you prestige. You can go on activities that give you prestige. There are so many things that you can do that give you prestige. So the prestige bonus that you get from Impatient is not high value at all. It does help your travel safety. So if you're it helps your travel speed, I'm sorry. It improves the speed at which you travel through places, which I don't think is as important as improving the travel safety of places. Maybe that's just me, but again, that's not a modifier that I value very highly, travel speed. There are other ways to boost your travel speed. There are innovations and stuff that you can do to boost your travel speed, and I think there are lifestyle perks and stuff. If you want to boost your travel speed, get into the wandering lifestyle. I would, even though that's one of my least favorite lifestyles, if you're somebody that travels a lot, don't get this to help you travel around. It's just a pointless personality trait. I don't like it. Doesn't help with opinions very much either. Courtly vassals don't like it, and parochial vassals don't like it. Your liege doesn't like it, so if you have a liege lord, if you're just starting your campaign and you have a liege, you won't get along with them that much. Low value personality trait. Okay, that one was easy. Alright, on to arrogant. I think this is going to be another easy one for me. Definitely don't prioritize arrogant for myself or my children. +1 monthly prestige. Don't value that at all. Prestige is easy to get. -5 opinion of liege, -5 opinion of vassals. Reduces your scheme secrecy. So if you're like an intrigue build and you're arrogant, your schemes will be harder to commit because it reduces their secrecy. So -10% scheme secrecy. People who are humble don't like you. And since I try to promote humble amongst people, arrogant definitely clashes with that. If I want to have a lot of people that are humble, I want to try to minimize the amount of people that are arrogant. Stress gain through granting vassals your independence, which is not something I typically do, but if you are about doing that, it's going to cause you stress. Legitimizing bastards is stressful. Gaining stress while signing white pieces during offensive wars, which is something you should almost never come across, because you should never be signing white pieces. You shouldn't be declaring offensive wars that you're not winning. If you're declaring an offensive war and you're forced to do a white piece, you deserve to stress out about it. You deserve that stress because you didn't win your war. You got yourself into an offensive war that you shouldn't have gotten yourself into. So, even though you do get stress gains from all those things, I don't find myself doing that. I don't find myself granting independence to people or legitimizing bastards a lot. So maybe... Honestly, there's nothing good about arrogant. There's nothing good about it. So what? You get +1 monthly prestige. Who cares? That's not helpful at all to me. Avoid at all costs. It's not a particularly dangerous personality trait. Like, if I had somebody that had a job that made them a powerful agent, I wouldn't be scared if they were arrogant, but still, not a personality trait that I value highly at all. I think paranoid is another one of those. That's going to go at the bottom of the list. -1 diplomacy, +3 intrigue. Don't really value that. If you're trying to boost your intrigue, you have other personality traits up here that are better for that. So I don't value that +3 intrigue. +25% dread gain, but also +100% stress gain. So whatever you do that causes stress, you're getting twice as much if you're paranoid. That is a huge penalty. In fact, I hate it when my children get paranoid, because they tend to stress out and get a bunch of negative traits because of it. So this is actually a really easy one for me. Avoid paranoid at all costs. Even though it does have some benefits to scheming, like it improves your chances of discovering hostile schemes, +10% scheme secrecy. So you'll discover hostile schemes more easily, which might sound good, but it isn't really that good. There are ways that you can improve your scheme discovery chance. Reduces your travel speed, but does improve your travel safety. But if you're getting the personality trait to boost your travel safety by such a small amount, only +10, you're getting that personality trait for the complete wrong reason. You gain stress through inviting characters to court, and you gain stress through plots. Just not a good... Any way you slice it, this is not a good personality trait. Sure, it gives you +3 intrigue, but that's it. You can get intrigue from other personality traits up here before this one, which this is basically rendered obsolete by the other ones that I put up here. So obsolete. Don't get paranoid. Avoid it like the plague. Compassionate is also another surprising one. I would have put it in drop, but I don't think it's that bad that it deserves to be dropped, but it does have a lot of downsides. +2 diplomacy for the loss of 2 intrigue, which is really bad. So if you're doing an intrigue build, this should be avoided like the plague. -2 intrigue, -15 natural dread. So if you're trying to do a dread build, definitely avoid this like the plague. +5 attraction opinion, +10 courtly vassal opinion, +15 minority vassal opinion. People who are callous or sadistic do not like you. So there are 2 personality traits that are the opposite of this, sadistic and callous, I'm sorry. Yeah. So just not a very good personality trait. That +2 diplomacy is not worth the -2 intrigue and the natural dread loss and the increase of dread decay. So if you're doing a dread build, this is going to increase the amount that dread decays over time. So not good. And then here's the real downside. Stress gain through blackmail, stress gain through breaking up with lovers, stress gain through denouncing or disinheriting, dismissing concubines, executing people, fabricating hooks, imprisoning people, moving people to the dungeon, starting a murder scheme, starting an abduction scheme, revoking people's titles, and torturing people. All of those things that I just said cause you to stress out if you're compassionate. It's going down here, actually. It's going down here. The only reason I can see myself tolerating compassionate is if there's somebody in my court that's compassionate and I'm worried about them possibly scheming against me. I definitely wouldn't give this to my kids. I definitely wouldn't give it to myself because it basically renders me incapable of doing my job. All those things that I just read, if you're a ruler, there's definitely a time you need to do one of those things. I'm not going to read them all again, but you heard me say them. So if you're trying to rule your realm and do any of those things that I just said, you do not want to be compassionate. Wouldn't give it to myself. I wouldn't give it to a child unless in a dire emergency and I didn't have anything else to choose. Like if I had to choose between compassionate or paranoid or arrogant or impatient or lazy, I would definitely choose compassionate. But this is like at the bottom of this tier. I should say this, guys, I'm not necessarily ordering them by priority. I'm just saying that compassionate isn't that good. It barely made it onto this list. Or it barely made it into this tier. Okay, Just is next. Just is a pretty easy one. It boosts things that I value, +2 stewardship and +1 learning, +15 parochial opinion and minority opinion. Increased initial legitimacy. People who are also just gain +10 opinion. So other just people like you. Arbitrary people don't like you, so this is the opposite of arbitrary. Stress gain through blackmail. That doesn't make it good for an intrigue build, but if you're trying to do an intrigue build, you wouldn't be trying to get just anyway. Stress gain through blackmail. Okay, I think that takes it out of the running of being equipable. I do like just. I like when characters are just, but just not for people. Or for myself, because I try to scheme a lot. This is not good for scheming. This is not good for blackmailing, I'm sorry. And it's not good for scheming either because it's a negative intrigue. You get learning and stewardship at the expense of intrigue, which I do value more than intrigue. So, yeah, I think this is a good place for it. I definitely see myself giving this to children. I could definitely see myself giving it to myself as well, but I would get any one of these over just. You lose stress from exposing secrets, which is not something I tend to do willingly. You gain stress through executing prisoners. So, yeah, if you're doing like an evil build or an intrigue build, just avoid this. If you're doing anything else other than an intrigue build, get just. I do like just. It's just not good enough to be in the equip tier, but it is a good trait. I do like it. Okay, we're almost done. Second to last, Gluttonous, which is the opposite of Temperate, which is naturally going to bump it down the list because Temperate is one of my favorites. -2 Stewardship for Gluttonous, and Stewardship is a lifestyle that I do value very highly, so don't like that. Plus 10% stress loss. Not that great. 10% isn't that much, but it does improve stress loss. -5 Attraction Opinion, which isn't a really big deal. People who are gluttonous like you more, and then people who are temperate like you less. So that does have an effect on it. Since I want as many people as possible to be temperate, that naturally bumps glutton down the list. It's not really good for anything. It doesn't help you with any skill points. It does help with stress. That's like the main bonus to it. But it doesn't help you with opinions. It does make you less likely to die from poisoning during murder schemes. You have court positions to help you, to protect you against those kinds of things. Glutton is definitely not as bad as these, but it doesn't really help you with your skill points. And characters who are gluttonous tend to get more negative personality traits like Comfort Eater or Drunkard. So I think that's going to actually bump it down. Don't want to give this to my kids. I don't want to have it myself. Provides no skill bonuses. Doesn't really help with opinions at all. The only thing it does is help with stress loss, and there are so many different ways to help with stress loss. So very low priority. It's not as bad as these, but it's not that great. Very low priority personality trait. I would try to avoid this. All right, and last but not least, Greedy. -2 Diplomacy, which I do value. Which is a lifestyle that I do value, so not starting off well. +5 monthly income, which isn't that much, actually. +5% monthly income isn't that much. +10% monthly income per stress level. I do not value modifiers that help you when you're stressing out. So any modifier that is X improves as your stress level increases, I do not value those modifiers at all. If I have to be stressing out in order to get a bonus from some kind of personality trait or any trait or anything, I do not value that highly because I'm not trying to stress out. Stress gain through giving money. So if you're trying to improve opinions diplomatically by bribing people, that will cause you to stress out if you have greedy. Stress gain through granting titles if under your domain limit. That's actually kind of funny. So if your character is under your domain limit and you're still gifting titles away, you're going to stress out because of it. If you're over your domain limit and you're giving away titles, there's no effect. But if you're under, there is an effect. I think you can manage stress pretty well. Where am I going to put greedy? It doesn't help with stewardship at all, and that +5% monthly income, I don't value that much. You'd be better suited getting more stewardship from either stubborn or temperate to improve your income than getting greedy to help your income. I think I'm going to put Greedy here. Doesn't help with opinions. Doesn't help with skills. It's negative. It's net negative for skills. The only bonuses are a slight increase to your income, which, and I stress slight. It's only 5%. So that's it. Now, this is how I kind of predicted the tier list would end up. I thought it would end up like a bell curve. Not that many personality traits at the top that you want to try to prioritize for your character. So after walking out of that dungeon in Skyrim, the things that you want to drop first in order to reduce your encumbrance is lazy, patient, arrogant, and paranoid. Then Callous, Cynical, Forgiving, or I'm not going to read through all of them, but these. Drop these first. And then drop these second. Prioritize these for yourself and for your children. Prioritize these less for anybody. Nobody should have these. Only a very few people should have these. A decent amount of people should have these. Quite a lot of people should have these. And then as many people as possible should have these, including yourself. So that's my tier list, guys. This went on for almost... This is a 2-hour video. Holy crap. Are any of you going to watch this? I'm sure we're going to find out. But anyway, that's going to do it for this tier list, guys. My voice is super tired now, but I spent 2 hours talking. Hope you can glean some information out of this. The distribution is about what I thought it should be. It's not top heavy or bottom heavy. It's a bell curve. It's a bell curve. And that's how I think it should be. But anyway, lords and ladies, if you've been here this long, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you just skipped to the end, I'm sure there are a bunch of people that have done that just to see the tier list. But if you did stick around to the end, thank you so much, lords and ladies. Maybe I could do another one in the future to try to minimize... just try to get through it a little bit faster, but if this video performs well enough and people aren't bothered that much by how long it is, we'll see how it goes. But lords and ladies, thank you so much. That's my tier list for the personality traits in CK3. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope this is going to prove useful to you in your campaigns. But that's the end of this one. Thank you so much for being here, lords and ladies. If you enjoyed this video and you're still here, hit that like button. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of this tier list. Let me know how you would change this tier list and why. Let me know what you think down in the comments. But that's the end of this one. Until the next video, lords and ladies, have a good one, guys.